it can give you some amazing energy and some creative geniuses that just boost you like this.
Talking about hard drugs.
Anytime that anyone uses any of these drugs or substances of abuse, the brain itself gets affected.
Talking about hard.
Creatives, their brain never rests. They are inquisitive. They want to unfold or uncover.
At one point in time, I left my comfort zone, my abode, and I came to Medina Ghetto, and I fraternized with rocks and wolves. Me too. I said, yes, I want to try it, because if this is giving them the euphoric and the energy and the drive, then I think it's a good thing. And I tried it, and trust me, I was like a moonraker. I saw myself like an angel.
A psychiatrist and clinical coordinator of the Pantan Hospital tells me more.
Commonly, what we are seeing, and the most common substance all around the world, is alcohol. Alcohol is a very, very toxic drug. Unfortunately, it's among all of them the most legal and illicit of the drugs. Yes, whenever you see adverts on TV about liquor or any bitters containing alcohol, they say 18 years and above. But who really checks for ID cards whenever alcohol is being purchased? So alcohol still continues to remain the most predominantly used substance or drug for that matter. Cannabis comes soon after that in our setting, where people use and are able to get at very cheap prices, 2 cedis, 5 cedis, and they are good to go. They still enjoy their high. And then you have the cigarettes or the nicotines around.
This is the Chosen Rehab Center, a facility that offers help to mentally challenged individuals. This was where Red Eye, of Too Tough fame, after battling drug addiction in 2023, got relief. The use of drugs is one big problem bedeviling the creative industry. A lot of creatives the world over have lost their lives, their sanity, and their livelihood through drugs. But what really pushes them into this act? Let's find out. The center has a music recording studio, a computer lab, a gym, and an open area suitable for prayer meetings. The Chief Executive Officer of Chosen Rehab Center, Apostle Daniel Kobe Washington, tells me about some of the things that drive creatives into drug use.
Because the brain never rests. Creatives, their brain never rests. They are inquisitive. They want to know more. They want to unfold or uncover, release things that somebody will be like, wow, how did he get to that frequency? How did he get this song? How did he come up with this movie? How did he write that book? You know, because the normal thing is, it doesn't give nobody a high. Something that is common, nobody wants to fall for it. But you want to come up with something different. And that is why they start experimental abuse or drugs. Let me do some weed. Let me do some alcohol. They have the different ways to do it. But the weed is known that it's supposed to broaden or open them up.
According to satirist Kweku Sintim Misa, popularly known as KSM, the biggest push for drug use among talents in the creative industry is the ability of the drugs to evoke wild creative ideas.
They tell you that drugs will enlarge your creative horizon. There are so many things that you can create and do that under normal circumstances you will not be able to. And surprisingly, there's some truth to it.
For most people who use illicit drugs, they start as children or teenagers. The late Lynx Entertainment signee OJ Black is one of those who got trapped in the act when he was but a little boy.
I started smoking when I was very young, very, very little. I started at the age of 11.
11 years?
Yes.
Who introduced you?
No one.
How did it happen?
So I was in a boarding house, and sometimes you see the security, what we used to call watchmen.
Yeah.
Smoking around, I mean, seated in their jackets, smoking, and I was talking to one of my friends who like, hey Charlie, you see the way this food is smoked, you know? It was like, oh, you go feed smoking. And that was how it started.
I want to sing for the world, sing for my country.
Good, good.
So if I sing and you don't pay me, yo, I don't lose. If you know what you are doing and what the talent is and what it's worth, it's not for the peanut the person is going to give you.
Good. Nasty, a former member of the Lifetime Family Music Group, tells me that his relationship with drugs was birthed during his time in Adisadel College. Little did he know that what made him high for a moment would ruin his life forever.
This whole thing started in school. You understand? This whole drug thing started in school. I studied and the disco guys listen me, sell you out. And I'm trying to say about my life story. That the disco guys are telling me that because I went to Adisadel, I'm sending Adisadel college guys out. But I'm not gonna lie. I started this drugs around at the year 19. I was a little kid. I was a little bit stubborn because Charlie, you need something strong. I don't worry. So far as my motive is to stop drugs, I don't want any drug conversation because right now, I'm trying to say no to it more than going to rehab, or they should tight me. They don't want me. You understand? Say no to it. You have the money in your pocket. You say no, you won't buy it. That is real rehab.
Dr. Julius Hatche says drugs impede the normal functioning of the brain.
The whole concept or the whole idea of drug is that it has got a biological basis. Addiction now demonstrates a biological basis, making it clear that any time that anyone uses any of these drugs or substances of abuse, the brain itself gets affected. It halts the maturation of the brain. and to some extent it even causes the brain's maturation to regress. So certain social skills that you would expect that a person will acquire at a certain stage, because of the use of drug, they may not gain or acquire it.
That notwithstanding, the general perception that drugs boost the confidence of creatives is rife among entertainers. Although Noah King agrees with this notion, he cautions that the consequences are dire.
On the prelims, you would do better. Because you know, you can imagine when you are behind the turntable and being highly spirits and the music is going on, and you want to scratch, you want to do this, you talk, you get to the euphoria. So I always have the intuition that no, when I don't get high, I can't perform that well. But it will get to a stage and time where you will no longer use the drug for your work, but the drug will be using you.
For entertainers who depend on drugs for their creative activities, KSM, who admits to attempting drugs in the past, advises that the future is bleak. According to the venerated comedian, people who create works of art without external aids like drugs are usually more successful.
When you get on any drug, it can give you some amazing energy and some creative geniuses that can just boost you like this. You know?
Speaking from personal experience.
Can I finish?
Okay.
That can give you the boost. However, trust me, if you rely on your natural and you give yourself enough time, you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish. The deception is that one gives you an immediate thing that you can do, and you think, oh, this is it, this is the way out. But the more you do it, the more at the same time it destroys that capacity. So you can be the greatest creative and everything, but later on you realize that it brings you down again very, very, very fast. So my advice is don't depend on any external high to get creative, because it will give you just that boost. But you can't depend on that boost. Now the other question:
Did you ever try it? Any of those drugs?
I tried something. I tried something. Very, very minimal thing to test it. Actually, honestly, I did it. Say, okay, let me see how best it can help me to be creative. And the ideas that I got were all very, very wild. And to me, wow, this thing is amazing. It can give you ideas and things. But then once it starts dying down, then I realize these were not wild ideas. These were stupid things. Yeah. But at that time, you don't care. You think it's, So for me, it doesn't work. And I think creatives, I believe in what they call the natural high.
Okay.
I believe in what they call the natural high. Creatives who stay natural and depend on the natural high are always more successful, and they have longevity than those who depend on the quick high thing. Yeah.
We pray in the mighty name of Jesus Christ.
At the Chosen Rehab Center, Apostle Washington reveals a lot of the people who are brought to his facility for treatment are those who have artistic capabilities, a reason he decided to build a music studio at the premises.
We see that almost 50% of the people that comes in are musically inclined.
Oh, okay.
So either they sing or they rap, or some might say they play drums. So we realize that if we're having a lot of these people, then we need to put in the studio. And God being so good, my background is production. It's because I'm a Grammy-nominated producer in Sweden. So it was easy for me to put together the studio and to teach music lessons and music classes and how to beat making and all of that.
So you personally teach music?
I teach, yeah.
And you have others who help you to do that.
So I've trained a lot of guys. So the guys that you are seeing in the studios over there, they have been taught softwares like Pro Tools, Studio One, Logic, so they can use all these things and make their beats. And production helps because you will need some kind of concentration, and if you are able to put the tones together, there's a certain high in it.
Wow.
So that can replace the highness for the drugs that you were feeling for.
For those who find themselves in this situation, all hope is not lost. Dr. Hache suggests ways to help people get out of drug use and its addiction.
In helping people who are into drugs or substance abuse, we have various strategies and approaches, and it's easier when you have the person you are dealing with appreciating the fact that they have a problem that needs to be treated, for that matter. Unfortunately, quite a number of the people who have substance use disorders or addiction issues do not even consider it as a problem until they may hit rock bottom. But once they do, what we do is that we have a process whereby we assess them, because drugs, like I have mentioned or alluded to in the past, have a myriad effect on the human being, and they may have a physical condition that is associated with the drug use. So they need a thorough medical examination, a thorough psychiatric examination, so that we identify some of the underlying medical conditions, some of the underlying psychiatric conditions. Then we can target treatment at them and probably focus subsequently on the drug use.
So, before you think about engaging in drugs to boost your creativity or for other recreational purposes, consider the harking effect it could have on your health, your finances, your family,
At the beginning of the show, we told you we were bringing you this JoyNews Hotline Documentary, and the story was beautifully told by Kwame Dazi. It's a conversation on the drug use among celebrities or creatives, if you will. And I'm in the studio with two guests. The author of the documentary, Kwame Dazi. He's an entertainment journalist with Joy FM. And Dr. Abigail Harding, specialist psychiatrist at Kolebu Teaching Hospital. It's a pleasure to have you both in the studio with us. Good morning.
Pleasure to be here. Good morning.
Good morning. What inspired you to go out and tell this story, Kwame Dazi?
I've been in this industry for a while, and I keep close contact with most
sorry, there's Rex Oma on Zoom too. He's a musician, yes. So we are bringing you diverse perspectives on this issue. Thank you for joining us, Rex.
So over the years, I've actually witnessed some of these creatives get into drugs. We've heard stories of some of them, both on the international level and even right here in Ghana. We can mention Whitney Houston, we can mention Johnny Depp, we can mention a lot of them. Right here in Ghana, we can mention Kiki Jan, Lord Kenya, who even came out to tell us about his drug addiction. OJ Black that I interviewed as well. Sometime last year, we heard the news of this member of the Too Tough group called Red Eye. And we heard that he had left his home. He was wandering somewhere in Tema, a ghetto in Tema. And so one of our colleagues went for him, sent him to the rehab center in Achimota. His name is Emmanuel Ajiman. So from there, I, together with my producer, Philip Nye, we were thinking about how to develop content around this whole drug use and abuse. We did one for radio on Showbiz A to Z, and we decided to do a documentary as well. So we started the journey. We interviewed all these people. It was difficult getting some people to speak to us, people who had gone into the situation, because, you know, it's a very delicate situation. Some people don't want to come out to talk about it, but it is an issue that is very dear to the hearts of creatives. It is actually killing so many people, you know, taking all their livelihood. Some even have become more or less like enemies to their families. So we decided to put this together to educate people. If you're out there, you are creative and you are watching, at least you know that before you get into it, you know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah. And the doctor was saying it's because of the high pressure environments they find themselves.
Exactly.
You know, the willingness to create something extraordinary. When you were mentioning the names, the first person that came to mind was Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
He lost that man to drugs.
Yeah.
A legend.
A lot of them.
Years down the line, I don't know anyone who can compete with Michael Jackson.
Yeah. And remember, KSM even mentioned the external high and the natural high.
Yeah.
So for most of them, because they get that external high, the quick high, if you like, you know, at the moment, because they get that, they think that is what is going to propel them to greatness. You may get that at the beginning, but what becomes of you later is the problem.
Yeah. And honestly, until I watched this documentary, I wouldn't have categorized alcohol as a drug. But Dr. Abigail Harding is
surprised as well.
Yeah, so I didn't know that alcohol was a drug, but it looks like it gives the same designation that these pills and marijuana and the other forms of drug give. What does it really mean when you get high, Dr. Harding?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
So, yes, to your first statement, it's true that a lot of people think alcohol is not a drug because it's so commonly accepted and commonly used within society.
And advertised.
Exactly. So we think that it's a normal thing to use, but it's the most common thing we actually see in our practice in psychiatric facilities. And it gives you, when we say a high, you have this euphoric feeling within you. You feel happy, extraordinarily happy, happier than most people have experienced. And
bursting with joy, huh?
Exactly. You feel like colors are out there, blurred, and things are looking so good. So that high is what a lot of people are chasing. People chase it in different ways. Some people are what we call adventure junkies. People climb mountains. People do skydiving. So people also turn to drugs to achieve that high because it's a quick way to get that high.
Do we have that inherent need as human beings to fall on, whether it's adventures, whether it's on drugs, pills, to satisfy something in there?
Even eating food gives you some amount of pleasure. So yes, we do have a need to have pleasure in our lives, but going beyond a certain extent. And we also know that drugs can create what we call a dependence, or what is commonly known as addiction. So you become dependent on it to the point that you can no longer function. At that point, you are losing the benefits of what you went for in the beginning, because now you may get the high, but you can't function, you can't do anything. So even though it's sort of, you have to balance, look at it and look at the negative effects that is having on your life. So I presume that those creatives, like you mentioned, want to be able to expand their creative abilities. But then in the end, they realize that they become addicted to it or dependent on it, and then they can't function anymore.
Let's get to Rex Omar to give us more perspective. Rex, thanks for joining the conversation. Now, as a musician, a creative, would you say that this dependency on drugs comes after you experience some sort of block in your creative line, or is it just something you fall on to boost the creative process and all?
Thank you very much. Not necessarily. You see, first and foremost, we must understand who a creative is. Somebody who is supposed to create something out of nothing. And for you to be able to get these things done to the extent that it can attract so many people, you have to be in a different realm. So most creatives are highly emotional. And what people don't know, most of them are also highly very shy. So they always need something. If they don't have it naturally, they always need something to be able to take them to that realm where the creativity can come in handy. Now, another aspect of when you come into the limelight, societal pressures on you because you have become a star. Being a star does not necessarily reflect in your pocket. Yet society will expect so much from you because now you are on the television screens, your music is being played. If you are a movie star, you are always on television. If you are a footballer, you are always on television. So everybody knows you are popular. So society expects so much from you that you can't support realistically. So then you need a coping substitute, something to substitute you to go on. Another one is a lot of people have a stage fright. I mean, standing in front of 5,000 people, even 2,000 people to perform, everybody is watching you. So every normal human being will be thinking, the mind will suggest to you, oh, so what if sometimes you get scared? What if I go on stage and something wrong happens? So all these things makes people want to get something to cope with. Sometimes especially when you become very big globally and you are on tour, you are tired. The managers still wants you to perform because they are interested in the money. So you may not necessarily even be in this drug thing, but somebody, a manager or whatever will suggest to you, oh, Charlie, take this small, it will give you energy. Not knowing the manager needs his money, not knowing that when you start the first one, you just have to continue and you become addicted. So as soon as you try the first one, second one, third one, then you become addicted, and to win yourself back is difficult. So there are so many. People do not know. If you are looking for people who are very depressed and have so much pressure on them, are the creatives. Even in Ghana, a lot of creatives are going through unimaginable things that society don't know behind the scenes, and everybody is expecting so much from them. And these are the reasons why people get into some of these things. And then getting into it is one thing, winning yourself back is another. So that is where the problems are.
How difficult is it to win yourself back from that journey when you've experienced or you've already created that dependency on the drug to be able to perform and live up to society's expectations of you as a creative? How difficult is it?
It's extremely difficult unless people around you see you going through that thing or going down that lane, and they can take you for rehabilitation or something like that. Otherwise, you yourself, you can't stop yourself. You can't, because you have become addicted. There's something that they call cold turkey or whatever it is. When the drugs are getting out of your system and you need another one to replace it, it's another serious issue altogether. Some artists come with this same hyperactive stuff in them. I am one of them. A lot of people who saw me when I was in my heydays thought I was highly on drugs. Fortunately for me, I've never, ever been on drugs.
Okay.
But me, I am already hyperactive. So maybe what helped me was because my father was a medical doctor. He told me that you are hyperactive. Anytime you touch any drug, know that you can never return.
Right.
And it will destroy you. So I got scared from day one. Other than that, I would have fallen a victim because as I was traveling around the globe, people are giving it to you. And you know, when you are young, precious, so let me try it and see how it is. And as soon as you try it, some people, when they try it once, you can't come back. You have to continue. And this is what is happening to. So we have to sympathize with them. You know, people, when you see creative people in drugs, don't just jump and condemn them. A lot of them are going through so much societal expectation, familiar expectation, friends and whatever. And then the zeal for you to even maintain that status is another problem. Meanwhile, in minds of people, you are rich. You are supposed to live a certain style, and then you can't support it. And it's like a lot of people are going through a lot that we have to sympathize with them.
Okay. Dr. Hardin, before we even talk about withdrawal, I know that sometimes creativity is said to be passed on through genes or it's hereditary. Is it possible that drug use or addiction can also be passed down? What's the science there?
There are, when we look at families who have addiction problems, if you look at a father, his son or his daughter, we know that yes, there are some genes that can be passed on to make someone more likely to become dependent on it. But it's not a given that your father was addicted to a drug, your mother was addicted to, automatically you are going to be addicted to it. Because like Mr. Omar said, the first step is actually trying it. If you don't try it, then there's no, we know that you're not going to become addicted to it. But that's willingness to try, to give it, to just test what it tastes like. And the second one, the third one, then yes, you do have a if your father had it, or there's a family history, what we call a family history, then it's possible that you are also carry those genes and you may be more likely to become dependent on the drug.
So are you saying that you have a problem the very first time you try it? Or when does it become a problem?
It becomes a problem when you are no longer able to withdraw yourself from it, when your body becomes dependent on it. So when you get into what we call withdrawal, or you become tolerant on it, so the amount that you take is no longer enough to give you that high or that pleasurable feeling that you were initially having. When you start having withdrawal symptoms like feeling like your body is shivering, you can't function without the drug, medically you have certain symptoms that are going on. Those are all things that point us to the fact that you've become dependent on it or addicted to it. There are some other things like your social functioning declining, neglecting your other activities, be it your job, your family. All of those things come together for us to say that you've become dependent on it.
Or an addict.
Yes.
So if you let's say a baby is born by a mother and a father who both depend on drugs for various reasons, and they've created that dependency on drugs to be able to cope. That child came out of those two people.
Yes.
Does that create in that child that need to also use something to,
It depends on one first. If the mother was using drugs during the pregnancy, then initially in the first few months or days of the baby's life, yes, the baby has received the drugs through the placenta or in the womb. So yes, the baby does need to have detox and the drugs removed from the system. But remember that even with that aspect, that biological aspect, there's also the environment aspect. The baby is born into an environment where both parents are doing substances, are doing drugs. So they are exposed to it right from day one. Some of us are never even exposed to drugs. We've never even seen it with our physical eye. But this baby, from day one of their lives, they are exposed to it. So that alone is even increasing the likelihood that the child may become dependent or addicted to the drug, aside the biological aspects.
That's concerning. But let me come to you, Kwame. You went out to the ground and told the story. Does it look like the creatives who are involved or who are using drugs at this point really want to quit?
And when I spoke to the Dr. Hatchen, he said quitting depends on you. You need to decide to quit before you can quit. Now, speaking to most of them, I think most of them actually want to quit, but it's very difficult to quit. I have friends, I've seen a lot of them, those around us who still do it. There are some artists, if they're coming for an interview here today, they would smoke at the car park. If they delay for, let's say, 15 minutes, they'll go back and smoke again before they come into the studio.
So they can't function without it?
There are some who go for events elsewhere, in other countries. And if they don't get the drug to use, they can't perform. That's serious. Now, back to how some of them even get into it, whether it's genetic, or it's obtained from environment.
Okay.
The people I spoke to, Nasty and OJ Black, these are people who got into drug use at very, very, very tender age. age 11. So imagine.
What are you doing with drugs at age 11?
In school. And both of them got into it in school.
Yeah.
Boarding school. So you ask yourself, what are some of the influences they get when they go to school? So all these are questions you should be asking regarding the kind of attitudes people pick up from various schools. Because if you tell me that at age 11, you got into drugs when you were in school, then it brings back the issue of how well these pupils or students are even catered for in our various schools, kind of control teachers have on them and all that. It's a very critical issue that we need to pay attention to.
Yeah. When Rex was talking, he spoke about pressure from society. Does this say anything about us as viewers or audience and the pressure we exert on these creatives? From someone in the entertainment industry,
exactly.
You experience this a lot.
It is something that pertains in that industry. And so before you get into it, you should prepare, you should know what you're getting yourself into. I always say that most people want to be in the limelight as creatives. They want to be stars. But even before they get into the creative industry, they don't learn the ropes of the trade. Before you get into the industry, you need to know these are the rules of the game. You need to even learn about copyright, learn about all these pressures that you may encounter on your way. But the individual is only concerned about getting fame and getting money because they've seen other people, you know, riding big cars and all that. And so they think it's all rosy. Before you get into the space as a creative, you need to assess all these things. Are you ready? Would you be able to contend with all these influences if you get into the industry? So I think that once it is part of the industry, and let's not forget, it is not only creatives that suffer these issues, but we are talking about creatives because it is our space as showbiz people. That is why we are focused on them. Before you get into this space, you should know all these issues before you make the move. Because as I speak to you now, I know some creatives who are really struggling with this addiction. And I spoke to Apostle Washington, who owns the Chosen Rehab. And he told me, yes, some of them come in, they get healed, others don't. Others get healed, they go back to it, and they come back to the center.
And that's the struggle.
Yeah.
Wanting to quit and your inability to quit.
Some of them have been there for about the third time. They come there, they get well, they go back to the drugs, and then they come back again.
And it's psychological, isn't it?
Yes.
Do all these drugs, Dr. Harding, do all these drugs affect our mental health the same? Like alcohol, marijuana, cigarettes, cocaine. I think the white substance there is cocaine, pills, molly, ecstasy.
They affect our psychological function to different extents. But to speak to what Kwame was saying, it's if you look at what's happening in the schools, from a young age, people want to start using drugs. They are exposed to it in schools. That's part of the reason why we are looking to increase awareness about this substance use in schools, starting from next month, which we are calling the Purple Month at the Mental Health Authority. We are hoping that we can raise awareness about its effects, the psychological and physical effects of using substances in the body. And he mentioned that a lot of people have been mentioning that it's very difficult to stop because it's no longer a thing about willpower. It's about it's a disease. It's a biological disease. It affects the brain. We know that over time, using the substance now affects pathways in the brain where you are not able to use the substance, where you are not able to function the way you need to function. So we know that it's no longer something that when you say, I'll just quit, and then it's automatically you quit. No, you need help to quit. That's why sometimes when people go to rehab the first time, we know that as part of the disease, they may have what we call a relapse, and they may need to go a second time or a third time. It doesn't mean they failed, but it means it's part of the disease. Relapse rate is part of the disease. So we understand it as psychiatric doctors that this is part of it, and we know it's part of the journey. Some people are able to go through once, twice, sometimes as many as 5 times before they are able to stick to sobriety.
This is very important because there are people dealing with addiction and their family come together to help them, and the moment they relapse, they just give up hope on them. Exactly. And so it's important to know that it's not the end of the road for them, and relapsing is a normal part of the journey to recovery.
Exactly.
So how do we help young people to not get exposed at all to these things until they're old enough to decide whether or not they want to risk their lives by indulging in drugs and other substances?
So, like I said, increasing awareness about it is number one. Letting people know that giving them support when they have these problems, because people need to be able to come out to say, I'm dealing with this anxiety, or I'm dealing with this stress, and we don't want them to fall to these negative coping strategies, because some people use this as coping mechanisms. Young people especially, they want extra energy, or they are feeling anxious or tense about something, exams or something going on in their life. So we want to channel them into other positive coping strategies. So those are all parts of the awareness strategies that we need to do for schools.
Right. Kwame, I heard something about the financial aspect of this. Did they speak to you about how, depending on drug use, addiction to drug can cause them to go broke financially?
So Noah King, the broadcaster, spoke to me about how he lost everything through drugs because he was deeply engaged in all sort of drugs, coke, everything. And so he lost his finances. He was even fired from work. He had to resort to sleeping in slums.
Is it because drugs are expensive, or it prevents you from being as resourceful as you can?
They are very expensive as well. And because of the whole addiction, he wasn't even committed to work as well. So he could not earn much.
Yeah.
So it disturbs your whole being and the normal functioning of your being.
I like how you said that. Let me come back to Rex Omar, if you're still with us. Is it possible? You say you've never experimented with drugs. Is it possible as a musician to excel to the level of stardom without falling on any substance at all?
Yes, it is very, very possible. Just like Pamela said, before you get into this creative space, you have to know what you are getting yourself into. And you can't blame the young people who get themselves into the creative space. We don't have these institutions that will take you through some of these things. And it also comes with parenting. For example, I have a son, and he's a creative. He's not a musician. He is into fashion. But knowing these dangers, I sat him down and I talked to him about all these things. Because of these things, when he was going to even SHS, I made sure he didn't go to a boarding house, because some of these things they learn from their peers, ghetto life. They want to show that they are macho and all
gangster.
that. And let me try gangster. Let me try. So I decided that, please, something, go to school, come home all the time. I want to see you every day, so as to be able to reduce the temptation in getting himself involved in some of these things. Let me paint a scenario. Imagine a star. The zeal to break through is a lot of pressure, and now he's broken through. Before he came into the creative space, he saw other stars driving big cars, living large. They didn't know that it was all a show. We call it a showbiz. The fact that your management has rented you a big house and big car just to shoot a video or whatever, at the end of the day, when you finish shooting the video they put outside, you go and sleep in your small corner single room somewhere because the money doesn't belong to you. And when they go through that system and then they come back to realize how naked they are, it puts a pressure on you. So in the sight of people, you are big. But in reality, you don't have what it takes to live that kind of lifestyle. It brings a lot of pressure. That is the reason why some of them will even go for rehabilitation. They come back and the same situation that put them into the drug, for them to use it as a coping mechanism, prevails. So they go back. So it's a serious scenario that we need to find solutions to this. But I think that we need to look into our educational systems, especially the second cycle schools. This is where a lot of the young people get themselves involved in some of these things. And also in the creative industry, people must be taught what to expect before they get themselves involved in some of these things.
Thank you, Rex. My final question to you, Kwame, would be that as someone deeply involved in this industry, what do you believe are the remedies for creatives who, not those who are already on this journey, because that's a psychological and a health issue. For young people who are now coming, what do you think is the best approach for them to stay away from drugs?
I think we also owe it a duty, just as we're doing now, to educate people. And so if you're watching, this is one of the things we are doing to help people or to create awareness of this particular issue. Now, apart from that, I also believe that we have various institutions in this industry. Musica, for example, is a body of musicians. And I believe that their mandate shouldn't always be about contributing money to go donate when somebody passes, or maybe appear at various award schemes and award people or deliver speeches. I believe that by extension, they can also hold workshops, forums, and all that to educate people on some of these things. Apart from that, the individual getting into this, you owe it a duty to psych yourself before you get into the industry.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I think we need to amplify the voices of people who are doing it clean. People
Exactly.
who've gone in and come out and they're back clean.
And to touch on that, there are people who have been in it, they're out now, but they're not willing to speak about it. They should come out and speak about it. Educates people, inspire others. Yeah.
Thank you, Kwame. Dr. Abigail Harding. So addiction is a disease. We need to treat it as a disease. We need support from people. What will be your final words on this subject?
You've hit the nail on the head that yes, it's a disease. It's not about willpower. When you get to the point of dependence or addiction, you need help to stop. So reach out to a supportive family member or come to any of our facilities. We are willing and ready to help you get out of this
Right.
addiction.
So can an individual just walk into a hospital and say that I'm addicted to alcohol? So help me get clean? Or are there specific facilities that you go to?
Yes, an individual can walk into any facility.
Any regular
hospital, but they would need a referral to, once they go into any regular hospital, they may be referred to a psychiatric facility where we are able to provide that in-depth psychiatric assessment as well as a medical assessment to see where they are, what kind of treatments they need to help them in their journey. So you can walk into any facility, but you can also walk into any psychiatric facility, and we are ready and willing to help you.
And I think I just want to add that don't be shy to ask for help because it's not your fault. It's a disease, it's a problem. Rex, I'll take your final words and then we wrap this up.
Yes, thank you very much. I think that I will advise those who have not yet fallen a victim. People can get into the creative industry clean, succeed clean, and live their lives. And the advice is exercise, do a lot of brisk walking, and meditate. When you meditate, it takes you to that same height that you want to get to be able to create. That is what I've been doing all my life. Meditation can take you even higher than you smoking or taking any drugs. So it's a matter of practice, and before you get into this industry, when you get with the drugs thing, getting back is very, very difficult. So don't even start, and then try as much as possible to learn a lot about the industry before you get yourself involved. And then to those who are already in it, we should not blame them. We should not make them feel lesser than they are. We should just help them, assist them.
Well, thank you so much. Kwame Dadzie, I think this is a fantastic work that you've done, shedding light on drug use, especially in this creative industry. And hopefully this will touch some lives and prevent more people from plunging themselves into this disease.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But before I go, let me say thank you to some people who contributed to the making of this documentary, to my producer Philip Nye, to Kweku Owusu Pepra, Adam Naite, David Yaosechi, Nathan Amate, Kofi Hayford, and all the people that helped to make this a success. Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for staying. I hope you've taken some notes from this conversation on a hotline documentary on drug use among some persons in the creative industry. It's called Creative Addiction. And I just want to say that it might launch you into the winning streak, but you would like yourself better if you go clean. All right? Thank you for staying. Up next, there's more. Please stay with us. This is still the AM Show.